Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. Welcome to the Daiwa Anglo-Japanese Foundation. My name is Jason James. I'm the Director General of the Foundation and we'll be just chairing it today. So I'm in Cambridge in the UK, which is where I live. It's not where our office is. And our speaker today, Yuri Morita, is in Osaka in Japan. Next slide. And I'll just give you a brief introduction of her. So Yuri Morita is director of the Empowerment Center in Osaka. I'm not going to read this whole slide out, but the center offers training and consultation on diversity, human rights, communication, prevention of harassment, and strategies to prevent violence against children and women. And she is a well-known activist and lobbyist in Japan, has published 31 books, 2 of which have received national awards. She's received awards for leadership and developed this My Tree program for parents to recover from abusive relationships with their children. So over to you, Morita-san.
Good afternoon, everyone. And good morning, Ohayo gozaimasu, for the people in North America. And good evening, konbanwa, Nihon no minasama. Less than 2 months ago, on April 5th, in Tokyo, 59-year-old man beat his wife to death while they are having a kitchen conversation of her worrying about losing her job because of COVID-19. So this is one of a few family violence murders took place for the last 4 months in Japan. The United Nations called these family violence cases as shadow pandemic. But shadow pandemic is not what I want to talk today. I want to talk about domestic violence and sexual assault as endemic, not only during the pandemic time. They had been always a threat to world public health. So let me clarify, first of all, terminology of public health. Pandemic is a worldwide spread of disease. Epidemic is an outbreak of disease in certain areas. And endemic is ongoing significant spread of disease. In 1992, when I was involved in the issues of child abuse and domestic violence in California, Dr. Koo, then the director of CDC, US Government Center for Disease Control, declared that domestic violence as one of the most serious issues of public health. So it was huge help for us. A lot more government funding started coming in and moved toward better policy making. Statistic numbers were alarming then, but still now. So what do you guess about how many women are victimized by their partners? Yeah, I think a lot of people heard about or know about it. 1 out of 3 women in the world are assaulted by their partners. Japan is the same number. In Japan, according to the report of National Police Agency, every 3 days, 1 woman is killed by her husband. Isn't it a lot of numbers when you think about this happens? Not only the 3 months of or 1 year of COVID-19 time, but all the time, every year after year. That's called endemic. Domestic violence and sexual assault have been happening since long time ago. And we know for sure in Middle Age, the Old English common law explicitly permits wife beating. You might have heard of the expression of son of law came from this. You can beat wife by this whip, which is thinner than your thumb. And that's the origin of the expression of son of law. But we know that where there is gender inequality, there occurs domestic violence. When there is children's rights are not respected, there is child abuse. I would like to read the short message that I wrote and read at a conference in 1984 in California. I was a young mother, 36 years ago. I was a young mother and I was working in the United States to support the voices of the survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. So it goes like this. There have been no names for the oppression which women have received. So we began to give names to each one of them. Domestic violence, not marital quarrel. Sexual assault, not mutual sex plays, and so on. The stories of women have not been included in the history. So we began to include her stories into history, his story. So that history become more complete and a whole. The weapons we use to face this oppression are not nuclear bombs, not guns, not knives, not fists, but the stories. Stories which are silenced for a long time. When your story and your story and your story and your story and my story are told and heard and become our story, the powerful force emerges from that. That's the power we use in order to end this interpersonal violence. So, domestic violence and sexual assault are the threat to world public health with two very clear reasons. One, the high level of seriousness of its harm to people's health and subsequently to the economy. According to Dr. Finkelhall, the world's most respected researcher of violence, and my friend, 1 out of 3 girls and 1 out of 6 boys are sexually assaulted before age 18. I heard today there are over 300 participants of this webinar. So if 300 participants are all women, 100 of you are sexually assaulted before age 18, right? If 300 people are all men, 50 of you are assaulted sexually before age 18. Is it possible number? Yes, indeed. So book of feelings. So I want to show you the picture. This is a book that I published 2003, quite a long time ago. It's Book of Feelings. It's a children's book. 20 years ago, I spent 5 years visiting several elementary schools in Japan, doing 90 minutes feeling workshop, which I developed. And this book came out of the implementation of the workshop. There may be many books of feelings now, but 20 years ago, it was rare. And it was rare to teach kids taking care of your feelings is the most important thing for your wise thinking and your best behavior of choice. So the workshop of feeling is fun. Activity to come up with different names of feelings. Teaching kids that all of your feelings are okay. Even anger, envy, or camphor, they are all fine. Angry feelings tell you you are hurt inside. Happy feelings tells you you are safe inside. And we do role plays, how to listen others' feelings, and how to tell and express your feelings. And at the end, I ask, draw pictures of any feelings. So we spend like 20, 30 minutes drawing. So this book has many pictures of feelings that children drew during those workshops. Of course, I got permission to include them in this book. So this is one of them. This is drawn by 4th grader boy. And I asked him, what feeling did you draw? He said, Dad, it's not. That's all he said. But when you take a look at, in the middle, the little boy with blue shirts looks very fearful. But there's another boy by the desk. And his eyes are round and he's smiling. I hope you can see. So I asked him, who is this? Who is that boy at the desk? And he said, that's me. And when I heard his next words, I froze. He said, when I sit at the desk, I don't hear anything. I don't feel anything. disassociation. This boy has developed the symptom of serious PTSD by watching his mom beaten by father. So, seriousness of domestic violence. It's not only harm wives, but also afflict children and affect their entire life. When it comes to sexual assault, I have provided counseling therapy to many survivors of sexual abuse. The suffering and damage the abusers put on them for the rest of their lives are overwhelming. This graph shows the seriousness of sexual assault. So this is PTSD incidence rate. When you look at this graph, it's so obvious that people who had rape, or who, the red one is a woman and blue one is a boy, a man. So the 46% of female who were raped suffered PTSD. 65% of men who were raped suffered from PTSD. Well, you understand why men are higher in suffering PTSD compared to other physical violence. And the next one is accident. And next one is natural disasters. The rape is way higher than any other traumatic events. This is how sexual assault is a threat to world public health. So, second reason. First reason was the seriousness. Second reason, why you can say that it's a threat or it's a top issues of public health. The number of occurrences can decrease if rigorous community-based efforts are put in for taking preventive measures. That's why it's a public health issue. But the government needs to back those preventive efforts up financially. So just like we are doing now against COVID-19, whatever the preventive efforts like social distance, wearing masks, washing hands, all those prevention efforts. And government backs up financially. And that is how we control the infection. Same with the domestic violence and sexual assault. So we have developed an effective programs for abusive parents to change. My Three Parents program, which you see how they're doing 10 people as a one group, spend 13 sessions, 13 group sessions, and 3 individual sessions, which we have been implementing for the last 20 years. And over 1,300 parents graduated and recovered from their abusive behavior. It guarantees so that at least 3,000 to 4,000 children do not have to live in foster care system. and to be able to grow up with their own parents who no longer abuse them. The method of Maitri program is empowerment. Looking into own life stories and sharing them, crying and finding their own strength and resilience for recovery. Every session of this program, we begin with meditation and Qigong. Kiko, it's a moving meditation. And we provide a lot of skills to use working with children, communicating with children. However, in Japan, very, very limited resources are given for implementation of this kind of preventive efforts. We have 20 years of experience and scientific evidence to show its effectiveness. But still now, the program can be offered only to very limited people. In the US, I used to say government use money according to the size of shoes. The smallest spending is for children's, then women's shoes, then men's shoes, and the largest shoes is military shoes. So when I came back to Japan and start working in Japan, I realized it is same in Japan. The government spend huge amount of tax money buying hundreds of aggressive jet fighters, building more and more military bases in Okinawa, but very small budget for children who are abused, who are assaulted, very small assistance to the shelters of mothers and children of domestic violence. So according to Dr. Abel, who is a well-known researcher on crime in prison, his prison research of United States sex offenders, more than half of them began their sexual offense when they are in teenage time. And his research also shows that the number of victims one offender attacks in his life is 386 people. What do you think? So if you can bring one sex offender to recover and stop his violent behavior while he is still a teenager, will be successful to change horrible traumatic life of 386 victims of him. Isn't it cost effective? So we developed Maitri Junior Kusunoki program. Kusunoki is a name of tree, camphor tree, It is for children and youth to recover from sexual offensive behavior. And Maitri Junior Sakura program. It's a treatment program for children and youth who are sexually assaulted. I think even people in England and in the United States know about this anime. It's worldwide famous and so popular. So this is Totoro, right? So this program does also meditation and breathing exercise, along with many other things such as somatic practice. But meditation, sometimes for children, it sounds strange. So we use this introduction to meditation for Totoro meditation, we call. And another, 次のmeditation. And the next one is called Dragon Ball Z Genkidama meditation. This might be more popular than Totoro for overseas young people. Not only young people, even like middle-aged people are crazy about Dragon Ball anime. It is very popular. So he used this Genkidama ball not to attack, but for certain purposes he used. And so this is an introduction for kids who go through this program. They have done some sexual offense. It's very important. Every day they do 5 minutes meditation and breathing exercise to affect into their brain. So we do this Dragon Ball meditation. You put the hands up, and then if you can see this animes, what it says, he has a saying. He calls out to Genkidama or people. And he says, the earth, the ocean, and all the livings on the earth, please give me a little bit by little Genki, the life, the energy. Please share with me. So he said all the time when he used this ball. So the kids say that, and then put the hands, focus the energy, attention on your palms, and bring down slowly into your belly. And you sit down and you start meditating for 5 minutes. Meditation for those kids who have ADHD, who had some trouble of sexual behaviors, works very well. Let's see next. But meditation is not only the part of this program. One of the important things is whether that's abusive parents or domestic violence offenders or teenagers who abuse, who assault. Important is understanding anger. So this is one of the child who drew this picture of the feeling. This is called anger mask. So this is one of the effective tools we use in program. This teaches why people behave violently. I came up with this for my tree program as a tool for abusive parents to understand why they use the violence. But this can be used for domestic violence offenders, youth and children who sexually assault other kids, and youth who self-harm. But first of all, let us acknowledge the anger is healthy feeling. It is not something you have to repress nor ignore. Anger is very important feeling because it tells you when you are angry, your inside is hurt. So this is the picture drawing in that book of feeling. I asked him, what is the feelings you draw? And he said, I am angry and I'm going nuts. Yes, he looks angry, but you can see also the tears coming down. This is what this anger mask is. When you see a child very angry and hitting you or violent and throw things away, first thing you should do is that's just a mask, angry mask. But if you move the mask, behind the mask, this whole set of different kind of feelings. And it's almost like crying feeling. It could name different things. So this says like feeling of fear, anxiety, insecurity, sadness, loneliness, chagrin, despair, unconfident, sense of loss, shame. These are the feelings. And origin of these feelings comes from experience being hurt in the past. So this is hard to see, but this is also the feeling of picture of feelings that 10 years old boy drew this. So I asked him, what the feelings did you draw? And he said, feeling to kill. So he has a knife in front of his chest, and that's red, and red everywhere. I talked to him afterwards. During a workshop, we can't talk such things in depth. But after that, we have time to talk, and he really wanted to talk a lot. So I understood he was bullied of his transgender tendency. Actually, terrible bullying act was imposed upon him, according to him. So he wished to kill those bullies. That's his story. I was happy that he was able to tell me express the feeling and tell me the story in very long way. So that's when you look back that anger mask. Let me bring up this anger mask. Very often, this angry act against others, violence against others and violence against yourself, has this structure. When you are hurt, you feel all different kinds of this. You're fearful, you're anxious, you're sad, you feel lonely. But that time when you're hurt, usually you are not able to express. Usually around you, people don't listen or don't validate that feeling. So you bury those feelings, you suppress, but it stays there somewhere. And later on in your life, it comes up. When some stimulus comes to, then usually it comes up as anger. Most of the time, anger is towards yourself. So a lot of people do self-harming. But at the same time, some people do take on anger to others. That's the violence. Usually that's the system of interpersonal violence. A retired professor came to me and asked the counseling. He said his wife told him if he does not change his violent acts to her, she will leave him. So he wanted to change. But he has been violent to his wife for 30 years. So I asked him to take that anger chart, that anger mask, take home. And whenever you're violent to your wife, what sort of feelings came out besides surface angriness? By using that, he came out with the sadness, and with his word, it said, "Nobody cares me, even my wife." That was very lonely and scary feeling for him. That led him to wear the anger mask. And he also remembered that feeling was very similar to his experience in childhood. When he was in elementary school, he was often beaten by his father when his school score was not 100% right. So when he was hit, he felt that nobody cares me, even my father. So he remembers that 50 years ago. So that's the beginning of his recovering from his violent behavior. He remembers that his father told him that I hit you because I care for you. I hit you because I love you. So he associated violence and love when he was young. When he is with his wife, he associates that. I love her. Because that's why he could be violent. I think that without this kind of process, looking into being hurt and lots of feelings and taking care of those feelings, the person cannot change the violent behavior. So at the end, because it's coming time, at the end, I need to address this. 98% of sexual abuse offenders against girls are men. 83% of sexual offenders against boys are male. Overall, the sexual offenders are men. Almost 100% of pedophiles are male. 90% of victims of domestic violence are female. What are we going to do with these facts of male violence? One of my life work topics is gender and violence. And I have just recently published a book about it a year ago. So domestic violence and sexual assault are not women's issue, but men's problem. Women have been in the forefront of the struggle at least for 50 years. Late 60s and early 70s are those mania of domestic violence and sexual assault took place. So a half century passed. So that time has come. Now is the time for a lot more men to join us in front line. We know the majority of men are non-violent, gentle, peace-loving people. So those men need to step forward from bystander position so that together we create a whole future story of humankind. I want to share the words of Alice Miller. It has always gave me the strength throughout my career. Fear might be contagious, but so is courage. Let me say in easier English. Fear might be contagious, but courage is contagious as well. Okay, just give me one more minute. Isn't it amazing that over almost 200 people are sharing this time together over Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean and around the globe. So I would like to create a virtual connection of our breath, life energy, and mana by doing mindfulness meditation. I'm a yoga teacher, so I'm specific about the way to do meditation. So pull out your hip muscle to the side, both of them, so that your sit bones are widened and you are sitting the most stable way to the earth. And lengthen your spine. This is called Ptsd. This is how I teach meditation to kids in a residential treatment center. Ptsd. That's how you sit. And then breathe out your nose Breathe out from your nose slowly and relax your shoulder. Ground yourself to the earth. From your sit bones and from your soles of feet, root into the earth. Breathe in from your nose slowly as if you are pulled by the heaven to the sky toward our shared aspiration. Breathe out from your nose slowly, relax your shoulder. Breathe in from your nose slowly as if you are pulled by the heaven. Metta meditation we're doing. So think of women and children who are now beaten or sexually exploited in homes, in schools, in streets, in brothels, and in war zones. To those under the effects of violence, we're sending our collective prayer of Shanti, peace, Shalom, pax, Maitri, Aloha, and Heiwa. Breathe out from your nose slowly. Relax your shoulder. Ground yourself to the earth. Breathe in from your nose slowly, as if you are pulled by the heaven to the sky. Visualizing the global connection that we are forming now. Please continue breathing until you hear the sign from me. Thank you so much being part of this global sacred circle.